Inner Circle crew. I know Balaz is supposed to be joining us as well a little bit later on. Your boy's in all white today. I don't know why. It's one of those days. Kind of felt like it felt right. So on that note, dude, today's going to be a fun but speedy session. We've got exactly 50 minutes because I actually have to leave for a house inspection in 50 minutes. So we'll actually be 50 minutes this time. And we are going to talk about, I'm glad, Johan, that you're here because this training's kind of dedicated to you, my man. So we are essentially going to go over creating a mousetrap, and not just in the way that we did it in CIB, but in a way that I call creating a mafia mousetrap, which means it's so damn irresistible that prospects can't help but click on it and want to work with you. That's kind of the idea of what we're doing here today. So I'll go ahead and share my notes and we can jump right in. I should just check if you guys can hear what the hell I'm saying. Please let me know in the chat. Amazing. That's very cool. I expect Balaz to be joining us shortly. Very cool. All right, this should say Mafia Mousetrap, same deal, same thing. We're going to talk about creating a killer, profitable mousetrap. Now, if we get this wrong, and our mousetrap is average, or it's lame, or it's lackluster, then that means, because this is the thing that the entire group funnel strategy really hinges on, and it's kind of prospects' first impression of you. So if we get this wrong, you lose credibility, prospects won't take the next step in the funnel, which means you're wasting ad spend because they're not following through with the funnel, and that means no clients or money, which results in a sad face at the end of the day. Not what we want. When we get this right, though, you're an expert in your prospects' eyes. Prospects will devour the rest of your funnel. They'll treat you as the authority that you are. Massive ROI from ad spend because all the rest of the funnel actually works, and you get clients, you get money, and you get referrals, which turn into even more clients and money. And it's a virtuous cycle that continues instead of the virtuous cycle of shit that we get at the top. So, like I said, your ability to create a profitable Facebook group, like we've been talking about for the last 6 weeks, hinges on having a mafia mousetrap. Like I said, mafia just means irresistible. If you guys have seen The Godfather, you know what's up. Just means an exchange where the value greatly outweighs the cost. So if you guys remember from CMB, SAGES, right? So our mousetrap has to be SAGES, meaning short, actionable, goal-orientated, easy to take the next step or easy to consume, and sexy as well, meaning something that they actually care about, that they want to learn more about. So if you think about this little sort of pendulum, right, this little seesaw, every time you present an offer to your prospects, whether it's a free mousetrap or whether it's like a $10,000 program or mastermind or something, there's always a toss-up, right? There's risk and there's reward. Now, in this case, there's no financial risk because we're not asking for any money, but there is still a risk. Okay, just because something's free doesn't mean it's completely risk-free. I'll give you an example. So let's say you have an offer for your prospects and you're like, hey, come along, come join my weekend workshop. It's in Nebraska. That's in the US, if you guys, if you want to. It's 14 hours a day, copywriting intensive on how to write killer copy that converts. It's free, but you have to travel, right? And so there's still a risk of that. There's still a decent sized risk of that. Hey, what if I get there, travel all the way to goddamn Nebraska from Sweden, in Haydar's case, and I reach there and I'm there for an hour and it was like, wow, this is okay, or maybe it's not so good. And you're like, well, I'm stuck here for 27 more hours and I can't go back because I'm committed already. Right? That's kind of a big risk. But what if you said, hey, you know what? I've actually taken that same 28 hours of content on how to be a gangster copywriter and I've distilled it down into this 9-page PDF. All I need is your email. No need to get on a plane, book a flight, book accommodation, fly to Nebraska. No need to do any of that. I just need your email. It'll be in your inbox in 10 seconds. Hey, that's pretty good. We want to talk about this reward risk ratio. That's kind of what we're looking for. Balaz, dude, welcome to the party. What's we got on here? Someone else to join us too. Fabrizio, my man, welcome to the party, dude. Good to have you here. I love how it's the whole Euro squad, whole European squad. Despite being a really shitty time for you, you are the guys that will show up and not the guys in like America where it's actually a good time for them. Quite interesting. If this continues, I'm actually just changing the time of these calls to be more better suited to Europe, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, so this version down here, yeah, Johan. Good man. So this version down here, right? It's the same kind of content, but it's a 9-page PDF instead of a 2-day workshop in Nebraska. This is very much heavily weighted on the reward side versus the risk side because, hey, what can possibly go wrong in a free 9-page PDF? You can't really lose that much. You can't really lose a lot of time. You're not going to lose any money because it's free. So the risk is very low and the reward is pretty high. So that's what we want. That's kind of what we're going for here. And again, this is why a phone call or a webinar are not attractive mousetraps, right? If you have like even like an hour-long training as a front-end like lead magnet mousetrap offer for someone who's never heard of you to get into your world, it's not the most attractive thing because again, an hour, it's quite a long time, especially for business owners, and you guys are dealing with busy business owners who don't have a lot of time, but don't have an hour to sit down and just watch some class about copywriting that you put together. Even though it might be the most valuable thing in the world, the fact that it's an hour long is a bit of a turn off, right? They want something short, easy to consume, and actionable. And so that's what we want to do with our mousetrap. So creating a killer mousetrap. Let's talk about how to actually do this. So firstly, your mousetrap, it needs to be solid. Okay, this isn't something that we should rush. It's not something that we should just try and put together, some shitty PDF as fast as we can and then just put it out there. Now, granted, it's not something we should spend days and days and days on either, but it needs to be solid and it needs to be relevant, okay? Because this is kind of the first impression you're making to your clients, so it's pretty important that we do a good job. Again, if it sucks, you'll make a lackluster first impression, and the rest of the funnel, they're going to be viewing you through the eyes of, oh, this person doesn't really know what they're doing, versus, oh, this person's a rockstar and they know what they're doing. It's pretty different, okay? So we don't want to rush it. Now, what I have for you is 10 steps on creating a gangster mousetrap. So if you're ready for this, just give me a ready, some form of excitement. Let me know that you're ready to do this in the chat. Secretly, I just wanted an excuse to sip my coffee, and so I needed to stop talking for a second. All right, let's do this. So, step 1, it's the least sexy step of all time, but it is probably the most important, and that is to do our market research. Okay, first step of writing any piece of copy, you guys are copywriters, you know this. When you're writing a sales page, what's the first step? It's always research. Okay, and again, it's the least sexy, no one wants to do it, but it's kind of the foundation that makes everything else work or either flop embarrassingly. So it's pretty important that we get this right. Okay, so some questions to ask in our research phase to kind of come up with a topic. By the way, I should just ask in the chat if you already have a mousetrap, which I assume most of you guys do. Just say yes in the chat, and if you don't have one yet, somehow, still after being in Inner Circle this long, just say no. Just so I know exactly what I'm talking to you. I would assume hater. Well, you're about to have one after today. Okay. Yeah. If you don't have one, this is going to be step by step how to build one. If you do have one already, then we're going to basically cover how to make it better. And let's do this. Okay. So we have 1 yes, 1 no, and then 2 we prefer not to say, which usually means a no. So we have 1 honest person and 2 liars, and Johan who has his mousetrap. So very good. Okay. So during our research phase, we essentially want to learn the answers to some of these questions when we're trying to decide a topic that we're actually going to write about and build a hook about. Okay, Balaz has one for our mousetrap. So some questions that we can ask. Right. What are the most common challenges prospects are facing? What are the most common questions, I should say prospects here, that prospects are asking? what topics are still a bit of a mystery to your clients, to your prospects. And then what topics are either trending or kind of popular right now. Okay, so examples of this would be something like, chat closing appointment setting, because it's really quite new in the industry. People have been hearing about, chat closers and appointment setters, and it's kind of like in their peripheral vision somewhere, but they don't really know how to do it or who to hire or how to hire them, whatever. Right? Not that anyone here should write a mousetrap about Dogecoin, but that would be an example of something that's like trending and popular right now. Okay, but at the same time, we don't want to write about something that's like here today and gone tomorrow. It's something like fad. Something that's new but not going away. If that makes sense. Okay. So these are kind of some of the questions that we want to have a think about. Right now, where do we actually find the answers to these questions? Exactly the same places that I gave you guys in CMB, but just to kind of review. If you have had conversations or sales calls or even sell by chat conversations with potential clients, then that is really, really good market research. Like that's the reason why before anyone here should do chat closing, you should do like at least a dozen or a few dozen phone calls yourself, because one, it's an important skill to develop, but two, that's a great way to do market research by actually jumping on the phone with like 12 of your prospects. Even if you don't close them, it's still free market research. That's going to tie in really well to this, because you're going to learn exactly about where they are now, where they want to go, what's stopping them, and what kind of words they use to describe their situation. And that's really, really useful intel to have when you're creating a mousetrap. If you notice a lot of trends between, oh, they all seem to have this question or this objection or this obstacle, that kind of thing. And that's going to tie into creating a mousetrap. So calls is one way to do that research. Another great one, find similar books on Amazon that cover that topic and just go and look at the 3-star reviews. Okay, not the 5-star ones that are like, this is the best thing ever changed my life. Not the 1-star ones where it's just like, the shipment, the package never arrived in the mail, 1-star, right? You want to find the 3-star ones that are like, hey, this is pretty good, it's pretty solid, but it was missing this and it was missing that, and didn't quite change my life, right? Those are the kind of reviews that we want, because they're going to kind of give you the good and the bad. They're going to tell you what they liked about it and what was missing. And then the things that are missing is the things that you can cover in your mousetrap, right? And in your marketing of it. Another great one, questions people are asking in Facebook groups and in forums, right? So you guys should be in a bunch of groups, Facebook groups with your target market, right? That's one of the things from CMB. Just join a bunch of Facebook groups in your niche and you'll learn very quickly, but scroll through each one for like 5 or 10 minutes and you'll see what kind of questions people are asking, right? And you'll probably start noticing trends. These people seem to have the same questions over and over again. And so that's of course something you can make your mousetrap about. And as well, most viewed YouTube videos on the subject. So for me, it's pretty easy to do this test because I have my own channel, so I can just look at my own views. But I would go and look at my competitors. So for example, Alex Catoni, she's another girl that teaches copywriting. I could go look at her channel. I can see what the most viewed videos are. If you guys know how to do this, I'll just quickly show you. And then from there, once you can kind of see the ones that are the most popular, the most views, usually, I'll just use Alex as an example because she has a pretty big YouTube channel. Great videos. All you're gonna do is just up here, change sort by to most popular, and then you'll see here. Right, so most popular by a mile is how to become a freelance copywriter, right, and get your first client. And then some more basics of explaining kind of what copywriting is. And if I go and look at mine, that's very, very similar. Look, what's my most viewed YouTube video by far? How to get your first client. Okay, Alex's one, how to get your first client. Oh, that's a Bitcoin documentary, never mind. Yeah, and all of the ones that are the most popular for me are all about getting your first client. This one here, 2 proven strategies for getting your first client. How to learn copywriting for free. Right, so these are kind of topics that are coming up over and over again. And I know for me, if I was to do another mousetrap, it should probably be about getting your first client, because anytime I ever mention that in an email or a swipe up Instagram thing or a YouTube video, it just gets so much more interest than everything else. So clearly, the bulk of my audience wants to learn more about that, right? So that's some great ways that you should be doing your market research and learning what are some topics my prospects are actually interested about. Number one rookie error in the world is to go and create a mousetrap about something you think maybe people are interested in, but you're not sure. Right? Something that you would like to write about versus something that people actually care about reading about. Okay, that's a huge night and day difference right there. So it's really, really important that we do our research. So we're not spending a bunch of time creating a mousetrap that no one actually cares about. Okay, no one wants to learn the answers to it. So it's important that we get this part right. All right. Second, after we've done this, we need to test a few different angles. Okay, so some ways that we can go about doing this. If you have a list, you can of course test different subject lines. You can test different call to actions, different angles of wording the same thing in your marketing. Right? Post in your Facebook group if you have one. Post in other people's groups, and all you could say is something like, "Hey, I'm putting together a free report on how to blah blah blah. Which of these like titles would appeal to you the most?" And just make a poll and ask people to vote. Pretty simple. Ask current clients if you have any clients that you're working with. Say, hey, for someone in your situation before you hired me, just curious, which out of these two, these 2 or 3 different titles would have appealed to you the most? So your clients, your friends, they'll probably be happy to help out, and take a few seconds to help you out. Another great way you can do it, test different spheres, different 5-130s on all of your channels. So for instance, maybe you are tossing up between, do I write a mousetrap about how to increase open rates or about just how to increase revenue with email, right? Which angle would people care about the most? And so you could just test it. So you could send out, again, those 2 things could be 2 different emails and see which one gets the most engagement. Those 2 things could be 2 different posts in a group, see which one gets the most engagement. And then on your Instagram, for example, you could say, hey, I just finished putting together this guide on how to increase, how to double your open rates. I probably won't make that level of promise, but you could say, just finished putting together this guide on how to get 30% open rates. Just DM me the word 30 and I'll send it over. Right? And then you can try again a few days later with the revenue one, where you go, hey, just finished putting together a mousetrap, how to make big money from a small, not gonna call it a mousetrap, just finished putting together a guide on how to make big money from a small list. DM me the word big and I'll send it right over. Or something like that. DM me the word email and I'll send it over. And from all these different, places where you have an audience, whether it's email list, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever it is, Facebook groups, you're gonna just kind of try and test the waters a little bit and test 2 or 3 different angles and see what gets the best response. So I'll give you a really good example of this, and that is my video actually that I uploaded to YouTube a couple weeks ago. So the video was actually about how to, this one, it was about how to increase your income without working harder. And to be honest, that first angle didn't really hit very well. As you can see, it's got quite a lot less views than my normal stuff. And so my angle there at the start was basically like, hey, here's how to, right there, increase your income without working any more hours, which is basically charge more for your services. Okay, and I was talking about how to have that conversation with your clients to up your prices. Okay, then a few days later, I tried how to increase your prices. That didn't work so well either. There just wasn't much, in the email, didn't get that many clicks. In the swipe, on Instagram, I did a swipe up thing, it only got like 5 clicks or something, which is not a lot at all. And I was thinking like, what different angle can I test that? Because I'm sure there's good knowledge in here and I want people to see it, so how can I test it? And so on the third try, I tested how to earn $24,000 in 1 hour as a freelance copywriter. And that one got like 50 swipe ups. It was like 10 times more than what the other ones were getting. And of course, the mechanism behind it is that if you have 5 clients and you want to increase your prices, well, you get them all on the phone, a 12-minute conversation with each of them. So 12 times 5, it's an hour total. 4 of them say yes, 1 of them says no. 4 times $500 a month is $2,000 a month times 12 for a whole year is $24,000 from 1 hour of work, right? So that's kind of the angle I was going with there. And that worked really well. Got way more interest than the other two, right? So whatever channels that you have, wherever you have an audience, or even if you have to borrow other people's audiences, like in groups, find a way to test some different angles, and then you'll know pretty soon what is hitting and what you should build your actual mousetrap on. Another example, right? So these are 2 different posts that I've put into my Facebook group. This one was about Sam Tyler's copywriting masterclass, where essentially we covered how to write better copy, charge high prices, deliver killer results. It was a really great training. It was like 2 hours and it was awesome. But I put this here. I was like, who wants it? And only about 14 people were like, yeah, I want it. Versus this one over here, which is still, not terrible, but it's not great. So this one over here, though, I posted this last week, and I said I just finished putting together my 2021 pricing guide for freelancers. By the way, this video right there. And yeah, who wants it? And bang, as you can see, there's 238 comments. That absolutely blew me away. Like, that is a shitload. To give you an example, most of the stuff I post in my group gets like 4 likes and like 2 comments. Okay, so 238 comments is ridiculous. Now, granted, half those comments are me replying to people, but still, that is way higher than normal. And so I know this is something clearly people want help with about pricing their services. Okay, so we're following so far. Fahad, welcome, dude. Good to have you here with us. We're talking about creating a mafia mousetrap, which means a really irresistible mousetrap. And we covered the first 2 steps, which were market research and testing angles. Now, moving right along. Step 3. We need to decide your hook of the mousetrap. Now, all I mean when I say hook is really kind of think about it as like your 1-sentence summary of what the guide is about. So if someone's like, what's it about? You would say, oh, well, it's about how to get consistent 30% open rates, or how to make big money from a small list. Okay, so it's kind of like your summary of what the thing is about. Now, 2 really important points about this. Number 1, remember from CMB, always bikinis, not barbells. Okay, so what this means is we want to give people what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. Right? So it's not going to be, hey, here's how to run 10 kilometers on a treadmill every day. Hey, here's how to eat chicken breast and broccoli and rice every day. It's not sexy, and no one wants to do that stuff. Even if that's your mechanism of how you're going to help them lose weight and get shredded, it's not attractive, and that's not going to hook them in, right? So we want to go with more along the lines of how to get shredded in 30 days, okay? Because that's the actual outcome that they want. They don't want the mechanism of how to actually do the thing because it's hard work, okay? So outcome, not the mechanism, as we talked about TMB. And another important point, it should be clear, it should be simple, and it should clearly communicate your 3 Ps, right? Person, problem, promise. It should clearly communicate, who it's for, the problem that they have, and the promise, like the outcome of the thing. So Johan, the one he has now, my 7 secret tactics for boosting your conversion rates and being in control. I think it's pretty solid. We'll talk about names in a second. This is more just kind of the hook, as in like what's it about in a summary. But that leads me pretty well into this next point, which is going to be step 4. We're going to give the thing a name. Okay, so a good name should include 3 things that I said above: the person it's for, okay, so your actual niche, your target market, the problem it solves, or the result that it helps them achieve. Okay, and just as a few ideas, it doesn't have to end in any of these, but if you're struggling, here's some good sort of endings of the title. So I recommend going with something cheat sheet, report, guide, playbook, black book, or blueprint. Those work pretty well. You can come up with whatever else that you want. You're not limited to just these, but just some ideas to get you started. Above all, most important thing, don't make it fancy and complicated. Okay, now's not the time to wordsmith and be super like insanely creative at the expense of clarity. If you can come up with an awesome, like sexy name, that's a plus, but only if it's still crystal clear who it's for and what it does. Okay, really important. They should be able to just look at the title and instantly know if that's something that they want, if that's something that's for them, if it's going to help them. There shouldn't be any ambiguity about is this for me or not. It should be dead crystal clear from the first second. And then you can include a subtitle at the bottom as well to kind of, expand on the title that you chose. So for example, how to without is always kind of a universally good one. How to lose weight without going to the gym or without getting on a diet, something like that, right? You're just going to insert the thing people don't want to do there and the goal that they want there. Very simple. Another framework that you could use, how niche business owners, so how Amazon dropshipping business owners can scale to 7 figures without whatever the thing that they don't want to do is, without investing in high-level masterminds or, without hustling 12 hours a day or whatever it is there for you. And then a very similar one at the bottom, the niche guide to goal, even if blah, blah, blah. So the gym owner's guide to, doubling your number of franchises, even if you've never bought real estate before. Right? So it's pretty similar without underscore, even if underscore. You're just kind of taking the number 1 objection that they have or the thing that they don't want to do and putting it in there. So that's kind of a good formula that you can follow for subtitles. They usually works pretty well. Well, I was like, tell me more, how do I do that? Yeah, okay, so step 5. Before we write it, we are going to essentially brain dump the outline. Now, all this means is you're going to open up a fresh new Google Docs, just like this. You are going to brain dump like crazy everything that comes to mind. Okay, it's important that you do not filter. Don't stop to, I say, wordsmith. All I mean is like, make it written properly. This is just notes at this point. Okay, it does not have to read well. Don't judge yourself on that. Oh, I'm supposed to be a copywriter. It has to be written like, has to sound like fucking Mark Twain or something. Like, no, it's just brain dump notes. Get it all down on paper as quickly as you can. Don't stop to wordsmith, make it look sexy, make it read well, any of that stuff. Just brain dump. Okay, the outline, right? So what we want to do from there is essentially come up with 3 to 5 kind of core pillars. I think 3 is usually a pretty good number. And these are just kind of like, if you have to really dumb it down, 3 sort of key components or key steps. Remember when we talked about in week 10 of CMB, the book? Remember there were kind of 3 big pillars, 3 core pillars of the book, and then each of those had like 3 sub pillars and whatever, and then 3 points. It's kind of the same idea for here, right? So we want 3 to 5. I think 3 is a good number of core pillars. So for example, for me, what I help people do, if I had to summarize sort of CMB down to like 3 core pillars, it would be where to find clients, how to reach out, like what to say, and then once they respond, how do you actually transition and close them? So that would kind of be 3 things for me. If you were writing a mousetrap about hiring a VA, it could be hire, train, and then manage. Would be like the 3 core pillars or 3 key steps. If you were teaching Facebook ads, it could be you're going to build the ads, you're going to launch the ads, and then you're going to optimize the ads, something like that. If you're doing email marketing, it could be grow your list, nurture the list, and then monetize the list. It could kind of be 3 different key pillars of email marketing. If you were doing chat closing, it could be getting leads, nurturing the leads, and closing the leads, just out of top of my head, that could be sort of the three core pillars that you could write about. Okay. Example structure, if you're struggling with the actual structure of the mousetrap, of what it's going to look like, feel free to model mine. You guys will have access to it. It's right here. It's in the memes area. You probably see it on your newsfeed in a bunch of ads every day anyway. So yeah, you all have that. Now, a really good kind of structure to follow if you're struggling with the structure of your mousetrap could be open with a really great story. The reason I like opening with a story is just because it catches people's attention straight away. And again, we want to hook people in until they read the rest of the thing. That's the whole idea. So you'll notice in my thing, I start with a story. Right, firstly, I give you a hook. What if I can tell you this, even if this, blah, blah, blah. Bold promise. I'm like, yep, I know that's a big promise. But then I go straight into a story. Right, hey, here we were in Toronto, and this thing happened. I accidentally made $40,000. I realized that's a typo. It's 400. The comma's in the wrong place. It's supposed to be 40,000. And blah, blah, blah. And I go on and tell my story of James, how he accidentally discovered this crazy DM that is like a money printing Frankenstein. And it, since then we shared it with the rest of the tribe of students, and they all used it to sign clients as well. And now all of a sudden it's been responsible for like hundreds of thousands of dollars generated, in every niche imaginable. Right, so that's kind of my version of it. It's like an accidental discovery story. That always works well because it's like you're Indiana Jones in a tunnel digging for gold, and then one day you strike gold basically. So that's one way that you can do it. The other way, more traditional, like rags to riches kind of story. Doesn't really matter too much. Just pick a story that's interesting. Could be your story or a client story, someone that you've worked with before. The whole point is just kind of hook the reader in. Okay, then we want to introduce ourselves. I usually like to do them on the same page. So as you see here, I usually just have like a separate box where I introduce myself, talk about who I am and why they should listen to me. Then we want to go into why it's important to get it right. Okay, notice how I started this exact class here today. If we get this wrong and if we get this right, here's all the bad stuff that's going to happen if you fuck it up. Here's all the amazing things that are going to happen if you get it right. That's good to include near the beginning as well. We want to get some leverage. Where are we? Yeah. We want to get some kind of leverage on ourselves and on the prospects, and so they keep reading because we've kind of scared them about what happens if they were wrong. So we can talk about common mistakes, or for either one of these, either common mistakes as in ways people commonly do it wrong, or if it's so drastically different, if you like your way of doing it is so drastically different from the normal, you can just talk about straight up the new way versus the old way. Right, so that's kind of what Russell Brunson does a lot. He always talks about websites are old, they're outdated, they're dinosaurs, they're extinct. Websites are the old way. Funnels, yeah, that's the new way. Right, so you can have that kind of thing if that's applicable for what you do. So either talk about common mistakes or kind of old way versus new way. 3 to 5 key principles that make it work. So as you see in my thing here, I give you these principles here. Right, address the elephant in the room, text like a teenage girl, and Simon Cowell selling. Kind of like my 3 things. Right, and then you go into the actual thing, the actual script, strategy, method, whatever it is, the thing that you promised. For me, it's not actually until like right near the end that I include it. Somewhere down the bottom. Short summary of just tying everything together, like a 1 sentence, 1 paragraph at the most summary. And then, of course, very important, the key component of the mousetrap is next steps or call to action to book a call. So whatever the next step is that you want people to take, it could be to send you a message or it could be to book a call. So you have like your Calendly link there, for example. Now, just remember, if you are going to ask people to book a call, that booking a call is a significantly higher like investment than just sending you a message. Okay, so if you are going to encourage them to book a call, you really have to mention the benefits of the call and kind of sell them on why they should book a call. Okay, remember this diagram up here? It's that same thing again. It's the risk versus the reward. Just like with downloading a mousetrap in the first place, there's certainly a big risk in today's day and age about booking a call. Number one, because most people know that a call is kind of code for sales call and they don't want to be sold. Right? Again, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. So they don't want to be put in some high pressure like sales situation. So the risk is there. Also, the time risk. What if I spend an hour on the phone with this guy and it's just a complete waste of time? So there's a money risk, there's a time risk, and the reward for most people for a call, they don't see much reward there. And so that scale is skewed against your favor, unless you really clearly convey in in that summary at the end why they should book a call. What are they going to learn? Why is it going to benefit them? How's it going to help them? Because we need to stack. We need that seesaw to swing more towards the reward side if you want them to actually do it. That's very important. Cool. Just before we move on, is this landing? Is this making sense so far? Just give me a makes sense in the chat, or if you have any questions, let me know as well. Potential client of yours got suspicious when booking a free call because you have 3 questions at the end. You mean 3 questions in your like Calendly or in the cheat sheet itself? Yeah. Well, again, it all comes down to framing the call. So if you frame the call correctly, as in you could just say, hey, my intention for this call, firstly, it's not a sales call, leave your credit card at home. My intention is purely just to learn a little bit more about your business and where I can help you, and potentially give you some pointers as well into how you can best utilize email marketing. It's fucking dog. It's so annoying. How you can best utilize email marketing to grow your business. And if you want to talk more in depth about working together, we can do that on a separate call, but that's not the purpose of this call. That kind of thing. So you want to make it seem as risk-free as possible, as beneficial to them as possible, and just really try and again, what are the 2 main risks that people have about booking a call? The 2 main associated downsides. One, it's a sales call and he's going to try and sell me. So we clearly say, hey, it's not a sales call, so leave your credit card at home. And the second big objection people have is, well, it's going to be a big time investment. And so if you stress it's a 10-minute call, 9-minute call, then that takes away that objection. Because at the absolute worst, they're only going to lose 9 minutes. It's not going to be stuck on the phone for an hour, that they can't get away from, that kind of thing. So by mentioning those 2 things, not a sales call and it's 9 minutes, you've removed those objections. And the seesaw is much more likely to tilt in the favor of reward. Okay, and then you talk about all the benefits of having the call, want to learn more about your business to see if I can help, and I'll give you some free marketing pointers as well. You can have some fun with it as well. I promise that if it's not the most productive 9 minutes of your year, I will tell you a really lame joke, or I'll send you a goldfish in the mail. Something like that, just something a bit sort of funny to give it a bit of personality. That's really another great tactic as well because it takes the seriousness out of it, which makes it more low-key, basically. We're using a sales letter instead of going to a call work, okay? As in sending people to a sales page. Sending a dead fish. Well, you'll have some mixed comments about that, I'm sure. You start sending people fish in the mail. You might have a few complaints from the neighbors. Hey, the package stinks. Can you get rid of that? Yeah, so I mean, it could work depending on how high ticket your thing is. If you are selling something that's like 1,000 or more, it's probably better to sell it over chat, right? And so you just say, hey, send me a message on Instagram. Just say the word. I don't know what you're selling. Say the word confidence. Say the word whatever it is. Chicken nuggets. I always think of chicken nuggets. I don't know why. Very hungry. So you basically want to give them a keyword and a clear, simple. As long as it's clear exactly the action you want them to take. Don't assume that they're just going to do it. Don't be like, hey, here's my contact details. See you later. No, don't assume that they're going to contact you. just like clearly tell them exactly what to do. It sounds like nuts because you're like, they're not a 6-year-old child. Like, why do I have to tell them what to do? They can read between the lines. Don't let anyone read between any lines. Just tell them, make it crystal clear what you want them to do. Right? Don't be like, here's my email, see you later. Like, no, here's my email. Email me with the word, email me with the subject line, 9-minute call, and then we'll take it from there or something like that. Right? The point is make the next step very clear, very simple, very easy to take. Right? DM me the word 10. Here's my Instagram handle and it's hyperlinked to your Instagram. Like, make it as easy as humanly possible for them to take the next action if you want them to do it. Right? Next, we need to write your content. So we're going to take all of these notes that we just finished putting together in the brain dump, and we're going to actually flesh it out into sentences, paragraphs. We're going to add titles, subheadings, bullet points, stories, case studies, testimonials, all that good stuff. And same principle applies here as the Gary Halbert copywriting masterclass in that write drunk, edit sober, right? Or vomit now, edit later. They both kind of work. So the point is, again, do not stop when you're writing, just write. Don't edit as you write. Edit later on, afterwards, when you're done. So don't stop to fact check anything or spell check, grammar check. Like when you're in that flow state of just writing, you guys have all been there. You know what I'm talking about. When you're in the zone and it's just like the words are just flowing, right? When you're in that state, just stay in that state as long as you can. Keep flowing, just keep the words coming, and don't break it. Don't pause it to go, how do I spell that word again? Or is that really right? Let me go Google it. Like, don't do that. That'll break your flow state. Okay, do that afterwards when you're editing. Which brings me to number 7, edit the content. So afterwards, after you're done writing, that's when you go back, and usually better to do this the next day. But if you're in a rush to get out there, you can do it later the same day. Spell check, grammar check, go back and reword things that you want worded better, all that stuff. Run your entire book through Grammarly. Again, it's a free Chrome extension. I've got it installed right there. You should have it installed if you don't already. Just type in Grammarly into Google. You'll find it. It's a free extension. It's pretty good. It'll basically just correct your spelling and grammar. You should also then, when you're done with that, run it through Hemingway Editor. We talked about this a few times before, and you essentially want to smarten it down. So all this means is you want to aim for a grade 4 or lower reading level. If you get a grade 5, not the end of the world, but generally the lower the better. Okay, if you're on grade 6 or higher, I would say that's probably a little bit too high. Just see if you can get as close to grade 4 as possible. Okay, so that's going to mean you're going to have to reword some sentences, maybe break up some sentences. A lot of people like to write long, flowery language, and so you'll oftentimes be better off breaking it up into shorter, punchier sentences. And again, make it readable. So no large paragraphs. You'll notice to see how this is written. It's very like basically one sentence per line, right? And it's very easy to read because it's very punchy, it's very short, it's very like boom, 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 and it's not like you see this huge paragraph and you're like scared away. Cool. So once we're done with that, it's time to sexy it up a little bit. Now, all this means is we're going to add some images, some diagrams, testimonials, charts, color, graphs, emojis, right? All that good stuff just to make it visually appealing, essentially. So it's not just like a blank white Word document. We want to just make it a bit more eye-catching and professional, you could call it. So not professional, but more kind of professional looking, I guess, from a design standpoint. So what you can do, if you want images, you can use images of you, of course, for obviously in like the About Me part, you would use an image of you. For other parts though, like for this, where I had a picture of an elephant, on all the different kind of stuff, then you can use stock images from either Pexels. It's a great website. It's free. Same with Unsplash. It's another great stock image website. It's free. There's no need to pay hundreds of dollars for these stock images. Just use one of those sites. Jump in and then stylize the fonts, bolding, underline, italics, all that kind of stuff. And then really there's 2 ways you can go about it. So if you want to do the whole thing yourself and save some money, you can make the entire thing in PowerPoint, Keynote, or Google Docs actually, like something like this. And I'll show you in a sec how you can actually format it. So basically you can just make the whole thing in a Google Doc if you wanted and just put in a bunch of pictures. And if you wanted like an orange line, like you'll see, I have this kind of footer in everything. You would have to go in here and manually make that. So you'd have to go and insert image, shape, or whatever it is, drawing, and then manually draw the rectangle at the bottom and color it blue, that kind of thing, and change the margins to be at the bottom. So it's possible, you can totally do it. If you want to have something else a bit more like this, see how I have all the boxes on the side and stuff like that. This is going to be pretty tricky to do in Google Docs, so I recommend just using PowerPoint or Keynote. You can actually change in PowerPoint, you can actually change it from horizontal to vertical, and so that's how this entire thing is made. It's actually made in PowerPoint. Not by me, by a designer, but yeah. So you can totally do it yourself. Alternatively, find a designer on Fiverr, pay them like, it'll be less than $100 to design the whole thing for you. I probably would recommend that. It's faster, easier. Your time's best spent somewhere else, and they can probably do a lot better of a job than you can. I'm pretty happy with how this came out. All you're gonna do is just ask for the source file when it's done. So usually it's an add-on of like $10, $15, maybe up to $20, where they'll actually give you the PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever the hell they're using to make the thing. And that way, if you need to make any edits later on, you can come in and edit it. For the actual front cover, same thing again. You can just hire a designer on Fiverr to do it, which is probably what I usually recommend. But if you want to do it yourself, a cheeky way you can do this is actually, if you go to Canva, I'll show you real fast. Jesus, that was made ages ago. I can't show you here. Basically, I'll walk you through it. So you can make a page 8.5 by 11 inches. You just search ebook, choose a cover you like, drag it in, edit the fonts, the colors to for your liking. Now here's what you can actually do is if you just basically hit maximize on your page so it's as big as possible, instead of hitting the download button, because the download button will give you bad quality, you actually just take a screenshot and then just drag it into Google Docs and change the margins on the page to be 0. Right click the picture that you dragged in, select break text 0mm margins. What I mean is like here, for example. So see that break text and change this to 0. That would mean that you can make it fill the entire page, and then you just drag it and then that becomes your first page. And then that's kind of how you can do your front cover yourself if you want to do that. So that can totally work as well. That's a viable option. Yeah, and then from there, you just want to have a final check, make sure everything looks good, make sure it reads well. Read it out loud. That's a good tip as well. So go through your entire thing and read it out loud. You'll catch a lot of things that you wouldn't have caught reading it in your head, especially ways things are worded. If it's long and complicated and flowery language, you'll catch that when you're reading it out loud. And you'll just catch certain things that you would have missed. Optional as well for front covers. This is actually a resource I found yesterday on information for front covers. So it basically gives you, it's just like it's a free ebook about writing ebooks. It's pretty funny. But basically, as you can see here, right, cover design secrets, best-selling authors use to sell more books. So I haven't read it yet, but it's a pretty cool resource, I think. And so it gives you lots of great insights and tips as to how publishers manipulate readers into buying books. So I think it's a pretty interesting topic. And that'll give you some more design pointers as well if you want to have a read through that. Cool. Step 9, we're nearly there. We're going to share for feedback. This is really important. So what we want to do is we want to post in the CMB group or reach out to other people here in the inner circle. You guys mostly know who each other are by now, for a feedback exchange. So basically just say, hey, I'll review your book if you review mine, right? And again, they're short. Like we're not reading a 100-page manuscript here. They're like 10 to 15, maybe up to 20 pages. So if you share, exchange feedback, that's a great way of going about it. Ideally, when you're doing this, if you've written it in Google Documents, in Google Docs, that's ideal, because what you can do is you can go share, change this to anyone with the link, and then change this from viewer to commenter, and then actually people can actually jump in here and leave specific comments. I forgot the shortcut. It's like something M. Yeah, there you go. Option Command M. There you go. And then you can leave comments right there. Otherwise, you would just go insert comment. There you go. Right, and you can leave like more specific comments on the actual things as they come up. Step 10, my friends. That is it. You are done. That is how to make a mousetrap. Final edits, and then very, very simply export it to PDF. So I'll go here, file, export, where the hell it is, maybe file, share, file, print. I forgot how to do it, but you basically go print, save as PDF. It's pretty simple. Just change it from your printer to save as PDF, and then hit save, and then you're done. That's it. Or if you're using PowerPoint, you just go file, save as PDF. Pretty easy. Boom. There you have it. So this whole entire thing, this whole process should literally take about 8 to 10 hours to complete. So it's a decent amount of time, but it's not like we're spending days on this. But it is still something you should give a bit of thought to. Don't rush it and try and do get it out as quickly as possible. Spend a bit of time. It should have lots of strong intention behind it. But at the same time, don't feel the need to spend ages on this. It's still just one piece of that puzzle. So around about sort of 8 to 10 hours, I think is a pretty decent amount of time. If you want to be a full gangster and really like test a bunch of different angles for mousetraps, what you could do is once the actual content is done, you can actually test running ads with 3 different book covers. So if you just make 3 different book covers with 3 different titles, and again, use Canva in the way that I showed you just before, and then you're going to take the image from Canva, and you're going to use this website here, which is going to make you up a really cool 3D version in any of these for free, the free website. That way you can test 3 different book covers essentially and 3 different titles. And if that's one way you want to test angles, then that's something you can do as well. Run an ad like that, whichever one gets the lowest cost per click or the most engagement, you'll know that's probably the angle to go with. Okay. And the reason I've left this to last is because for all the people that actually opting in to receive the download, you want to actually have the download ready to send them. Otherwise, you just kind of like that's kind of frowned upon. If you're just collecting emails, promising them an ebook, and then if you did this at the start, and you didn't have an ebook, didn't have a guide or report to send them, they'd be like, hey man, I just gave you my email. What the fuck, bro? Where's my download? Dislike, unsub. Market spam, all that shit. So yeah, if you want to test this again when you're done, it's a great way to do it. Just a small ad spend, run it for a few days, and you can learn which angle works best. All right. Any questions at all about this entire process? First Inner Circle session ever under an hour. Pretty proud of myself. So we talked about creating a killer mousetrap, right? What happens if you do it wrong? What happens if you do it right? Step by step, how to actually do it. Market research, testing angles, deciding your hook, naming the mousetrap, brain dumping your outline, writing the actual thing, editing it afterwards, making it sexy, how to do the front cover for free by yourself or hiring a designer, sharing feedback, and that's it. That's the whole thing. So any questions at all? Feel free to let me know. For the ad, there's your landing page. Go to the ebook or the thank you page. The landing page is going to collect their email. So after they've opted in and sent you their email, dude, I would just use the same group funnel strategy we've been teaching. So go back and rewatch the group funnel trainings. I've labeled them all part 1 all the way up to part 7. So I think it was part 3. We talked about making the actual funnel. Just use that exact funnel. Because then that way you grow your Facebook group at the same time, as well as getting the email. And you just have the download link in your Facebook group. Yep, sure can, dude. I will whack it in right now for you. You can even comment on it as well, because commenting is enabled. So there you go. Very cool. All right, so crew. Assignments for this week. If you have not done it yet, build your mousetrap. I've just shown you how easy it is, step by step. It's pretty simple. It should take 1 day of your life. Get this whole thing done. It is really important, and it'll set you up for a lot of success. Okay, once you've built it, and again, feel free to text me for feedback on titles. So I might not have time to read every single person here's full entire mousetrap, but if you're struggling with, should I go with this angle, this title, or that title, feel free to shoot me a text and I'll help you sort of decide and point you in the right direction. Also, of course, feel free to post in the group, Facebook group. So once you've done it, once you've built your mousetrap, you've written it, you've designed it, you've done all that, feel free to post in the Facebook group for feedback. And I love it as well if you could give feedback on at least one other person's mousetrap. So that way we all have at least one person give us feedback and we can share and exchange feedback with each other. So feel free to tag other people that are here in the inner circle. Or like I said before, just message each other and say, hey, feedback for feedback. I'll review your thing if you want to review mine. And that way you get your thing reviewed. And you actually might learn a few cool things from the other person's mousetrap in terms of the way that they wrote it. And maybe you can go back and add some of those components back into your thing. Maybe a way that they wrote the case study or testimonial is really good. And you can be like, dude, I'm totally modeling that. And then you can improve yours as a result. Right? So that's a good way of going about it. And at the end of the day, that means you're goddamn king when we get this right. Okay, so gents, appreciate you guys' time for joining me today. Please do let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. Shoot me a text. I'm here for you. If you're struggling with angles or whatever it is, I'm happy to help. Yeah, build it, get it done this week. I want you to post it in the Facebook group because next week, what we're doing, we're actually going to have a round table sort of session where I want everyone here to basically bring their completed mousetraps done to the training next week. And then we're actually going to kind of review each other's. And so we're going to, 10 minutes each kind of thing. We're going to scroll through it. We're going to have the group give you feedback on yours. And then we're going to go to the next person and then have the entire group give that person feedback and so on and so forth. So you should be able to get through a good, at least sort of 6, 7, maybe 8 people in that session. And I think that's going to be really valuable as well. So if you guys are cool with that, let me know. Other than that, dudes, I got a bell. Please have an amazing rest of your day and week. And I'll see all of you badasses right back here for the round table mastermind next week. Cheers, dudes.